What if the hands tending these flowers once held the key to scientific breakthroughs? For one disgraced botanist, the delicate petals of a struggling orchid were a cruel whisper of a life she no longer lived. Her hands, once celebrated for discovery, were now stained with the shame of a deadly mistake. Aris Thorne traced the intricate veins of the orchid, the memory of her own forgotten brilliance, a dull ache. Later, in the potting shed, amidst dusty trowels and forgotten bags of soil, she found it, a dog-eared journal, its pages filled with her precise, elegant script. Chlorathra venenum, the name of the toxic plant that had shattered her career at the university, labeled a reckless pursuit, a dangerous obsession. The headlines of Mad Botanist's Blunder still burned, even 4 years later. Now her encyclopedic knowledge of botanical poisons was wasted on ensuring the estate's azaleas didn't get blight. She knew more about deadly plants than anyone, but here, she was just the gardener. In the estate kitchen, the clatter of ceramic mugs and the aroma of burnt toast were the soundtrack to Aris's invisible existence. "Still talking to your fancy plants, Aris?" Brenda, the head cook, chuckled, wiping her hands on her apron. Carlos, the groundskeeper, grunted in agreement. Aris merely offered a quiet observation about the surprising resilience of the common dandelions, noting their deep taproots and medicinal properties. Brenda just waved a dismissive hand. "Weeds are weeds, Aris, just pull 'em." Aris nodded, eating her sandwich in silence, the truth of her words falling on deaf ears. Someone was watching her. Not with malice, but with an unsettling calculation. As the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns, Aris felt it again, a persistent, analytical gaze. It wasn't the casual glance of a passing delivery driver or the estate owner's occasional indifferent nod. This was different, sharper, as if someone were dissecting her movements, charting her every action. She paused, pretending to adjust a rosebush, her eyes scanning the distant windows of the main house, then the discreet security cameras tucked into the eaves, a glint of light from an upstairs study window. Nothing. Yet the feeling lingered, a subtle prickle on her skin, a quiet hum of curiosity in her otherwise predictable world. A single note, a new name, Vance Global Tech. This wasn't a job offer, it was a summons. Returning to her small, cluttered apartment after her shift, the air still thick with the scent of damp earth and resignation, Aris found it. A sleek, black envelope leaned against her door, its heavy cardstock and elegant silver seal, a stark contrast to her peeling paint and worn welcome mat. Her fingers trembled as she broke the falcon crest. Inside, a business card, minimalist silver lettering on black. Silas Vance, CEO, Vance Global Tech. Her breath hitched. Below it, a handwritten note, bold and decisive. "Dr. Thorne, your unparalleled botanical insight is required for an urgent project in the Amazon. A car will be waiting tomorrow at 7 a.m. Your unique knowledge is not a request. It's essential." Okay, slow down, Aris. A black envelope? Left on your doorstep? From a tech billionaire you've never met? Chloe, Aris's oldest friend and a paralegal whose natural habitat was suspicion, held the thick black card as if it might spontaneously combust. Her eyes, usually warm, were narrowed to skeptical slits. "Vance Global Tech. And he wants you for an urgent project in the Amazon?" This is every red flag in the book, Aris. This is how horror movies start. Human trafficking, a weird cult, some kind of creepy eco-thriller fantasy. Aris watched Chloe pace the cramped living room, the expensive cardstock a stark contrast to the peeling paint. "I know, Chloe, it's impossible." But even as she said it, a dangerous spark flickered within her. Chloe was already at her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Silas Vance. Reclusive. Brilliant. No scandals, no tabloid fodder, just business articles and philanthropy announcements. He's either a saint or very, very good at hiding things. And how did he even get your address?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unnerving. "Cussed. Every red flag in the book," Chloe warned. But for Aris, it was a lifeline. Later that night, long after Chloe had left with a forced promise of hourly check-ins, Aris sat alone, the black envelope's contents spread before her on the worn coffee table. She picked up the note again, tracing the elegant silver script. "Your unparalleled botanical insight." The words were a direct challenge, a whisper from the life she had lost. Her eyes drifted around the tiny apartment, the stack of overdue bills, the wilting potted plant on the sill, the dull ache in her knees from a day spent weeding. This was her reality, safe, predictable, and slowly suffocating her. Then she closed her eyes, and images flashed. The dense, emerald canopy of the Amazon, vibrant, unknown flora, the intoxicating scent of possibility. It was terrifying, a precipice, but below it she saw not a trap, but a doorway back to the woman she was always meant to be. The botanist, the scientist, the one who held secrets in every leaf. Was it a trap, or the only way back to the woman she was meant to be? The next morning, the decision was a quiet, unshakable resolve. Aris found Chloe already awake, brewing coffee, a storm of worry etched on her face. "I'm going," Aris said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands as she packed a small, worn duffel bag. Chloe sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I figured. Look, I've put a tracking app on your phone. Don't you dare turn it off. And I want you to check in with me every 3 hours. If I don't hear from you, I'm calling the embassy, the National Geographic Society, the CIA. I swear to God." Aris hugged her friend fiercely, grateful for the fierce loyalty. "I'll be careful. I promise." At precisely 10 a.m., a sleek black Mercedes-Benz S-Class sedan, so silent it seemed to materialize from the humid city air, pulled up to her building. A chauffeur in a crisp black suit stepped out, not asking for her name, simply nodding. "Miss Thorne, we are ready when you are." Aris took a deep breath. She had chosen the unknown. Now, there was no turning back. The ride to the private airport was silent and smooth, the tinted windows blurring the familiar city into an abstract painting. Aris stared out, feeling a profound sense of detachment, as if she were watching a movie of someone else's life. The diner, the estate gardens, her cramped apartment, all of it receded, shrinking into insignificance. The chauffeur was a ghost, a polished extension of the car itself, his presence a silent testament to the wealth and secrecy of Vance Global Tech. She was untethered, suspended between the world she knew and a future that was a complete and terrifying unknown. The luxurious hum of the engine was the only sound, carrying her further and further from everything she had ever known. The world she knew was fading, replaced by the silent luxury of a billionaire's whim. They didn't go to the main terminal, but to a private executive hangar. There, gleaming on the tarmac, was the Gulfstream G650. It was a vision of power and grace, larger and more imposing than she could have ever imagined. A flight attendant with a warm, professional smile greeted her at the steps. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Thorne. Mr. Vance has arranged everything for your comfort." Aris was the only passenger. The interior was a study in understated luxury. Cream leather seats, polished mahogany, subtle silver accents. It was more like a flying luxury apartment than an airplane. As the jet taxied down the runway, Aris's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it, the point of no return. The engines roared, and the plane surged forward with incredible force, pressing her back into her plush seat. Within moments they were airborne, climbing steeply into the clouds. Below her, the city vanished into a hazy memory. The flight attendant served her a lunch that was better than any meal she had ever served or eaten in years. Poached salmon, asparagus, and a glass of champagne that fizzed like liquid stars on her tongue. It all felt like a dream. Tool poached salmon and liquid stars. This was no longer just a job. It was a dream. From manicured lawns to a wild, untamed world. Her true test began now. The Gulfstream's engines whined into silence, but the air around Aris Thorne hummed with 1,000 new sounds. The cool, controlled environment of the jet vanished, replaced by a humid embrace so thick it felt like a physical presence. As the door hissed open, a wall of vibrant green assaulted her senses, a riot of leaves and vines sheathed in mist, steaming under a sun that felt impossibly close. The smell was overpowering, rich earth, damp decay, and a floral sweetness that hinted at both beauty and danger. Aris stepped onto the retractable stairs, her practical hiking boots sinking slightly into the soft red soil of the makeshift airstrip. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from the sheer, overwhelming vitality of it all. This was not a garden. This was the world, untamed. A figure emerged from the shimmering heat, walking with a deliberate, unhurried pace. It was Silas Vance, dressed simply in a lightweight, dark linen shirt and cargo trousers that spoke of practical luxury. No flashy watch, no ostentatious display, yet his quiet intensity was unmistakable. He extended a hand, his grip firm. "Dr. Thorne, welcome to the Amazon." His voice was a calm, low baritone, cutting through the jungle's symphony. "We have a problem. A very specific one, involving an uncontacted tribe and a plant they consider sacred. It defies our understanding, but I believe it won't defy yours." She was a disgraced botanist facing a corporate shark. And the stakes? An entire uncontacted tribe. Silas led Aris through a meticulously organized, temporary research outpost. Sophisticated tents, bristling with solar panels and satellite dishes, were nestled discreetly within a small, cleared area. It was a stark contrast to the untamed wilderness just beyond. Inside the main briefing tent, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and hair pulled back in a severe bun looked up from a holographic display. Dr. Lena Petrova, Silas introduced, the lead botanist for Vance Global Tech. Lena's gaze swept over Aris, colder and more dismissive than any glance Aris had received at the estate. "Dr. Thorne," Lena said, her voice crisp, with a faint, almost imperceptible accent, "I understand you have unconventional qualifications. While your soft skills might be appreciated in, shall we say, less rigorous environments, here we deal with hard data. And your past, if I'm not mistaken, involves a rather significant deviation from scientific rigor." The jab about her past disgrace landed like a physical blow. Aris felt her old defensiveness rise, but Silas intervened, his voice calm. "Dr. Petrova, Dr. Thorne is here because our rigorous approaches have failed. Repeatedly. We've sent teams, ethnographers, even tried aerial mapping. The tribe refuses contact. Their connection to this plant is absolute, and we haven't understood it. That, Dr. Thorne, is where you come in." Aris met Lena's challenging stare, a familiar fire rekindling in her gut. This wasn't just a plant, it was the heart of a culture, a mystery defying all modern science. Later, in Silas Vance's private study tent, the air was thick with the scent of paper and ambition. Detailed maps of the Amazon basin covered one wall, crisscrossed with lines of attempted routes and exclusion zones. On a sleek, transparent tablet, Silas displayed satellite images of an impossibly dense, untouched tract of jungle. "This," he said, pointing to a small, almost imperceptible clearing, "is their territory. And at its heart, this." He zoomed in, revealing intricate, almost artistic botanical illustrations alongside blurry, low-resolution photographs. Aris leaned closer, her scientific curiosity, long dormant, stirring to life. "The plant," Silas continued, his analytical gaze fixed on the images, "is the nucleus of their entire existence. Every aspect of their culture, from their rituals to their social structure, revolves around it. We've managed to get samples, but it has defied all conventional scientific classification. Its properties are unique. Unstable, perhaps. We believe it holds immense potential, but its cultural significance is paramount. We cannot simply take it. We need their trust. And more importantly, we need to understand." Aris's mind raced, 1,000 questions forming. "What kind of properties?" she asked, her voice hushed with wonder. Her guide wasn't a scientist, but a keeper of ancient knowledge, the true key to this untouched world. The sun began to dip, painting the sky in fiery hues as Aris made her way to the outskirts of the outpost, where the jungle's edge seemed to breathe with a life of its own. A man stood waiting, lean and quiet, dressed in simple woven garments that blended seamlessly with the environment. This was Kai, the indigenous liaison. His face was etched with the wisdom of the forest, his eyes dark and observant. He offered a small, deferential nod. "Dr. Thorne, he said, his English clear but accented. "Silas-san has spoken of your purpose." Aris felt an immediate, unspoken connection. Kai was not a man of science, but a man of deep, inherited knowledge. "I am here to listen, Kai," Aris replied, her voice soft, respectful. "To understand your people's ways and the sacred plant." Kai's lips curved in a cautious, hopeful smile. "Many have come before. They speak of taking, of knowing better. You speak of understanding. This is a good path. But the forest, she guards her secrets well. The people, even more so." He gestured to a barely visible path leading into the darkening jungle. "Tomorrow, we begin." Every leaf held a secret, every vine a danger. This was her classroom, and survival was the lesson. The next morning, the jungle swallowed them whole. The air was a heavy, living blanket, vibrating with the incessant hum of unseen insects. Aris, accustomed to the manicured order of estate gardens, found herself constantly battling the grasping vines and slick, root-strewn paths. Sweat dripped from her brow, stinging her eyes, but she pushed on, invigorated by the sheer wildness of it all. Kai, by contrast, moved with the silent, fluid grace of a predator, his bare feet finding purchase where hers slipped. He pointed out a plant with broad, glossy leaves. "This one, for fever, but the root, for stomach fire." He then indicated a delicate, almost beautiful fern. "This one," he said, his voice dropping, "a single leaf can silence a man's heart." Aris's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition in her gaze. Her disgraced past, her encyclopedic knowledge of botanical poisons, suddenly felt less like a burden and more like a tool. She pulled out her field notebook, sketching furiously, her scientific mind reawakening in this vibrant, dangerous classroom. Every leaf held a secret, every vine a danger. This was her classroom, and survival was the lesson. The jungle was a book, and Aris was finally learning to read its most ancient language. Near a small, hidden stream, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms, Aris knelt, her fingers brushing the rich soil. Here the jungle wasn't just wild, it was cultivated, but not in any way she'd learned in a lab. She pointed to a cluster of vibrant bromeliads, their leaves meticulously pruned. "These are not random growths," she murmured to Kai, her eyes alight with a renewed spark. "The cuts, they're precise, not for harvest, but for shape, for flow." Kai nodded slowly. "The people guide the growth. The plants are family." Aris observed the subtle markings on nearby ferns, patterns that spoke of reverence, not just utility. This was botanical empathy, a language her old life had never taught her. An uncontacted tribe. Their first message wasn't words, but a silent, beautiful gift from the jungle. The next morning, near a boundary marker Kai had identified, they found it. A small, intricately woven basket, nestled on a mossy rock. Inside, a cluster of unique jungle fruits shimmered with dew, alongside a single bloom of an iridescent purple flower, a species Aris recognized as rare, but not the sacred plant. Her breath caught. "A silent greeting," Kai whispered, his voice hushed with awe. "Or a test. They have watched us. They offer what they have, not what they hide." Aris examined the bloom, its delicate petals perfect. It was a gesture of cautious welcome, a silent question posed in flora. Her offering was in gold, but a gesture of understanding, a bridge built with leaves and respect. With Kai's careful guidance, Aris prepared her response. She chose not a fruit, but a small, carefully collected packet of rare orchid seeds, non-invasive, native to a distant, higher elevation of the Amazon. And then, a beautifully drawn botanical sketch of the purple bloom they had received, rendered with scientific precision and artistic reverence. "This," she explained to Kai, her voice soft, "is a promise. To nurture what they value, and to show that we see the beauty they share, not just what we seek to gain." She placed the offering gently where the basket had been, a vulnerable act in the vast silence of the jungle. Her unscientific methods were building trust, while corporate demands threatened to shatter everything. Back at the outpost, Lena Petrova was waiting. "Aris, a moment," Lena snapped, her voice cutting through the humid air of her sterile tent. Silas is asking for progress. Your gifts and sketches are not progress. We need data. We need access. You're wasting time. Aris met Lena's sharp, disapproving glare. We're building trust, Dr. Petrova, something your data models can't quantify. My approach is cultural diplomacy, not a hurried scientific inquiry. Their worldview is plant-centric. My offerings speak to that. Your methods would have them closing their borders entirely. Lena scoffed, but Aris held her ground, a quiet defiance burning in her eyes. He saw not her past failure, but her unique genius. And now, it was time to prove him right. That evening, in Silas Vance's tent, the hum of generators a distant drone, Aris presented her reports. Silas listened, his gaze analytical, yet lacking Lena's cynicism. He looked over her detailed sketches and the photos of the silent gift and a reciprocal offering. Your soft approach is yielding results where our conventional methods failed. Silas observed, his voice a calm, low baritone. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. Your disgraced knowledge of botanical poisons, your intimate understanding of how plants can be both life and death. It's not just general botanical skill, Aris. It's what makes you uniquely suited to understand a tribe whose most sacred plant holds immense, perhaps dangerous power. That is your bridge. A flicker of validation, a renewed determination settled over Aris. He truly saw her. They were close. Every rustle, every shadow hinted at the guardians of the sacred plant. The jungle deepened around Aris and Kai, the canopy above thick enough to cast the undergrowth in perpetual twilight. Here, the paths were no longer just game trails. They were subtly maintained, a leaf removed here, a small branch placed there, markers for an unseen hand. Aris's eyes, sharpened by years of botanical study, picked out the signs. A patch of earth where roots had been carefully harvested, a small, intricate snare, designed not to kill but to deter. Kai moved even more silently now, his senses alive to the whispers of the forest. They know every root, every vine, he murmured, his voice barely audible above the hum of insects. The jungle provides, but she also guards. They have learned her secrets, for survival, for caution against outsiders. Aris felt a reverence settle over her, mixed with a growing apprehension. This was not just a forest. It was a living, breathing fortress, and she was an intruder on its hallowed ground. It glowed with an ethereal light, a living mystery, the very heart of an uncontacted world. Kai led Aris through a curtain of hanging vines, and suddenly, the world opened into a hidden clearing. But it wasn't the light of the sun that illuminated it. At the center stood a plant unlike anything Aris had ever seen, even in her wildest botanical texts. It was massive, ancient, its gnarled roots anchoring it deep into the earth, its broad, waxy leaves radiating a soft, pulsing bioluminescence. A pale, otherworldly green light emanated from its very core, casting the clearing in an ethereal glow. Aris's breath caught. Her sketchbook, clutched in her hand, felt heavy and useless. This wasn't science, it was magic. The heart of the ancestors, Kai whispered, his voice filled with reverence. It gives light, it gives dreams. It is protected by the people, because it holds great power, great effects. Aris could only stare, her scientific mind reeling, trying to reconcile the impossible beauty before her with any known biological principle. They weren't just observing a ritual. They were witnessing the ancient wisdom that had eluded modern science. From a ridge overlooking the sacred grove, hidden by a dense screen of foliage, Aris and Kai watched. Tribal members, dressed in simple loincloths and adorned with intricate body paint, moved with solemn grace around the glowing plant. A small fire flickered, its smoke curling upwards, carrying the scent of burning herbs. They chanted, their voices a low, rhythmic hum, their movements precise, ritualistic. Aris's eyes, wide and focused, scanned the scene. She noticed not only the sacred plant, but also smaller, less potent plants being used in the ritual. Crushed leaves, dried stems, added to the fire, or held by the participants. Her heart gave a jolt. She recognized a familiar botanical family, a distant cousin to the asterisk Chlorathra venenum that had caused her downfall. These were neurotoxins, mild ones, used in controlled doses. A dawning realization, both terrifying and exhilarating, began to form in her mind. The plant that destroyed her career was the key to understanding the sacred plant. Her disgrace was her greatest asset. Back in her tent at the outpost, late into the night, Aris worked in a feverish frenzy. Scattered papers, her old journals, and a glowing tablet filled with molecular structures surrounded her. She cross-referenced the unique characteristics of the sacred plant, its bioluminescence, its subtle aroma, the observed effects on the tribal members, with her old, meticulously detailed research on potent botanical neurotoxins. The pieces clicked into place with a sudden, profound shock. The sacred plant wasn't just a mystical anomaly. It was a highly evolved, less virulent variant of a specific neurotoxic family. It was a controlled form of botanical diplomacy, a plant that could induce altered states, create shared experiences, and facilitate deep connection rather than just cause harm. Her past disgrace, her intimate knowledge of plant-derived poisons, wasn't a burden. It was the Rosetta Stone she needed to understand the tribe's sacred secret. The silent diplomacy had worked. Now she would face the tribe and the ultimate test of her forgotten talent. The next morning, Aris and Kai returned to the boundary marker. This time, nestled on the mossy rock where their previous exchanges had occurred, was not just a basket of fruits, but a small, intricately carved wooden figure of a leaf, its veins mimicking the patterns of the sacred plant. Beside it, a single, fresh bloom of the glowing plant itself, carefully placed. Kai's eyes, usually so serene, held a profound solemnity. "They invite you," he said, his voice hushed, "to their heart. They trust your understanding. This is a great honor, Dr. Thorne. A profound act." Aris felt a nervous excitement surge through her, mingling with the weight of immense responsibility. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the wooden leaf. She had built a bridge. Not with words, but with leaves and respect. Now she had to walk across it. The fate of an ancient tribe and a priceless plant rested on a disgraced botanist's ability to speak a language beyond words. The jungle parted like a heavy curtain, revealing the tribal village. It wasn't a collection of haphazard huts, but a living extension of the forest itself, structures woven from vines and leaves, seamlessly integrated into the towering trees. The air was thick with the scent of wood smoke, damp earth, and something indefinably wild. Aris, Kai, Silas, and Lena were led along a narrow path, the atmosphere solemn and watchful. Children, their eyes wide and curious, peeked from behind woven screens. This was not a mere meeting. It was an entry into the heart of an ancient world. At the center of the village, under a canopy of interwoven branches, sat Chief Iali. He was an imposing figure despite his age, his face a map of etched lines, his eyes deep pools of ancestral wisdom. Flanking him were other elders, their expressions stoic, unreadable. Kai, stepping forward, spoke in a low, respectful tone, introducing the visitors. The elders' gazes swept over Silas and Lena, lingering, then settled on Aris. She felt small, a mere speck in this vast, profound presence, yet a quiet determination settled in her bones. This was it. The ordeal had begun. Numbers and data meant nothing here. The language of science was a foreign tongue to the guardians of the sacred. Lena Petrova, ever the pragmatist, stepped forward, her portable holographic display humming to life in the humid air. The device, a stark contrast to the natural surroundings, projected intricate satellite images of the sacred grove, then detailed scientific breakdowns of the plant's unique cellular structure. Chief Iali. Lena began, her voice crisp, translated by Kai. Vance Global Tech has invested significant resources. This plant, Chlorathra lumina, holds immense potential. Its biochemical compounds could revolutionize medicine, agriculture. We propose a collaboration to extract and study its properties, to share its value with the wider world. She spoke of yields, of market share, of patents and global impact. The words hung heavy in the air, alien and jarring. The elders listened, their faces impassive, their eyes betraying no flicker of understanding or appreciation. Chief Iali's hand rested on a carved wooden staff, his knuckles white, Silas, standing silently beside Aris, shifted imperceptibly, a flicker of discomfort in his usually controlled gaze. Aris felt a familiar frustration building, a chasm of misunderstanding widening with every precise corporate word Lena uttered. The negotiation was failing. Only one person understood the true language of this place. And she had to speak now. Chief Iali finally spoke, his voice a low rumble, translated by Kai with a heavy heart. "Your words, mademoiselle, speak of taking, of profit. You speak of turning life into numbers on a page. Our plant is not a thing to be bought or sold. It is a spirit. It is balance. It is life itself." His gaze, sharp and unwavering, pierced Lena. "You do not understand what we do here. Your words are empty." A chill descended upon the central hut, colder than any jungle night. The other elders murmured, their expressions hardening. One of them began to rise, a clear sign that the meeting was over, that their trust had been irrevocably lost. Lena's professional smile tightened into a grim line. "With all due respect, Chief, the spirit of a plant does not fund research or protect against deforestation." It was the wrong thing to say. The air crackled with offended silence. Silas's eyes, desperate, darted to Aris, a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. "Speak now." She spoke not of profit, but of poison and balance, drawing on her own disgraced past to bridge a chasm of misunderstanding. Aris stepped forward, her heart pounding, but her voice, when she spoke through Kai, was quiet, respectful, and clear. She held up a small, vibrant green leaf she had carried from the sacred grove, not of the sacred plant itself, but one she knew was deeply intertwined in the ecosystem. "Chief Iali," she began, her gaze meeting his. "Forgive my interruption. This leaf, it teaches us of balance, of the spirit of the forest." She paused, then continued, drawing on the very knowledge that had once ruined her. "I have studied plants that bring sickness, plants that steal breath and stop hearts. I have seen their destructive power." Lena stared, mouth agape, as Aris continued. "But in that study, I learned respect. I learned that true power lies not in destruction, but in balance, in understanding. Your sacred plant, Chlorethra lumina, is a plant of immense power, a delicate balance. My own research, my own mistakes, taught me to see that. You do not simply use this plant, you honor its power, you guide it, you understand its place in the great balance. Vance Global Tech does not wish to take this spirit. We wish to help protect this balance, to be guardians, alongside you, against those who do not understand." The elders' expressions, slowly, began to soften, a flicker of intrigue replacing their stoic displeasure. Lena looked from Aris to Silas, shock warring with confusion. Silas, a ghost of relief crossing his face, gave Aris another, more pronounced nod. Her moment of truth. To truly connect, she had to prove her worth, not with science, but with a deeper, shared understanding of life itself. Chief Iali's gaze, once stern, now held a deep, searching intensity. He studied Aris, then the small leaf in her hand. After a long moment of silence, he spoke, his voice still solemn, but with a new note of curiosity. Kai translated. "You speak of balance, of understanding the spirit. Many claim this, few truly see." From a pouch at his side, he produced a small, dried fragment of a plant, barely distinguishable, and held it out to Aris. "This is from the sacred one. But it is a part known only to us. It grows in the shadows, not the light. Tell me, daughter of leaves, what does this whisper to you?" Aris's heart leaped. This was the test. Not a negotiation, but a challenge of her deepest knowledge, a demand for proof of her claimed empathy. She took the fragment, her fingers trembling slightly, her eyes immediately focusing on its subtle texture, its unique scent, the faint pattern of its dried veins. This was her moment of truth. To truly connect, she had to prove her worth, not with science, but with a deeper, shared understanding of life itself. She wasn't just observing, she was living among them, learning the rhythm of a world untouched by time. Aris Thorne found herself in a simple hut, woven from palm leaves and sturdy branches, its earthen floor cool beneath her feet. The air was alive with the gentle murmur of the village, children's laughter, the rhythmic pounding of grain, the distant chatter of women. Under the elders' watchful, critical eyes, she began her immersion. Kai was her constant shadow, her silent tutor, translating not just words but the subtle language of gestures, the unspoken rules of a community that moved with the jungle's own ancient pulse. She sketched in her worn journal, not just plants but patterns of life, the intricate dance between people and the living world around them. Every observation was a lesson, every shared glance, a fragile thread of connection. She didn't just see the plant, she saw its soul. And in doing so, she earned their trust. The next morning, in the shimmering bioluminescent heart of the sacred grove, Aris stood before Chief Iali. In his hand, he held a small, dried segment of the sacred plant, a subtle variation almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. He looked at her, his wise eyes challenging. Aris took the segment, her fingers tracing the minute differences, the specific vein patterns, the fainter glow. Drawing on her encyclopedic knowledge, and the disgraced past that had taught her the nuances of plant potency, she began to speak, Kai translating her precise words. This variation, she began, is richer in the binding compounds. It acts as a stabilizer, softening the spirit's journey, guiding it gently, rather than forcing it. She explained how it was used in healing, in rites of passage, a testament to the tribe's mastery of balance, a controlled power, not a reckless force. Chief Iali's austere expression softened, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face. She wasn't just a translator, she was a bridge, weaving ancient wisdom with modern vision. For hours, in the central hut, Aris facilitated a conversation unlike any corporate negotiation. Silas's words, initially about sustainable research and protection protocols, were rephrased by Aris, through Kai, into terms the elders understood. He speaks of guardianship, she explained, gesturing to the glowing plant they had brought into the hut, of learning from your deep knowledge, not taking. Of shared wisdom to keep the balance, so the sacred plant and your way of life can flourish, protected from the outside world's ignorance. The elders listened, their thoughtful responses echoing Kai's earlier words about the forest guarding its secrets. Aris explained how Vance Global Tech, with its vast resources, could be a shield, helping them preserve their heritage against external threats, not exploiting it. From a distance, Silas watched, a rare, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. He had sought a scientist but found a diplomat. Aris had succeeded where all his data and dollars had failed. That evening, back at the research outpost, the hum of the generators a familiar drone, Silas Vance reviewed the progress reports. They were now filled with detailed accounts of successful interactions, of trust slowly, painstakingly earned. Lena Petrova stood opposite him, her face tight, a mixture of frustration and disbelief. It's unconventional, she conceded, though her tone still held a hint of disdain. But it seems to be working. Silas looked up, his gaze calm and firm. Unconventional, Dr. Petrova, is precisely what was required. Your data and our dollars failed. Dr. Thorne's understanding of botanical symbiosis, her empathy for their culture, her willingness to listen, those were the only metrics that mattered here. Her unorthodox methods were the only path to success. The shift in power dynamics was palpable. Lena's discomfort a quiet testament to Aris's triumph. It wasn't a deal, but a covenant. And Aris, the disgraced botanist, was now a guardian of an ancient, sacred world. The next day, under the vast ancient canopy, a ceremonial agreement was formally reached. Vance Global Tech would fund the protection of the sacred groves, establishing a buffer zone against illegal logging and mining. They would assist the tribe with sustainable resource management, ensuring their way of life remained untouched by exploitation. It wasn't an acquisition, but a partnership. Chief Iali, his face radiant with quiet pride, stepped forward. He placed a necklace of carved seeds around Aris's neck. You have seen the soul of the leaves, Dr. Thorne, Kai translated, his voice solemn. You are a * guardian of the leaves. Our trust is given. Aris felt the weight of the seeds, a profound honor, a sense of belonging she hadn't felt since her academic dreams had shattered. The jungle sounds seemed to harmonize, a symphony of mutual respect. She left the jungle changed, carrying not just a plant, but the weight of a new purpose. The Amazonian dawn broke with a symphony of birdsong as Aris stood on the makeshift airstrip, the humid air already thick around her. Kai stood beside her, his face serene, a small, vibrant orchid in his hand. "For your new garden, guardian of the leaves," he said, his eyes holding a depth of unspoken gratitude. Aris accepted the fragile bloom, her fingers brushing his, a silent covenant passing between them. Lena Petrova, standing a respectful distance away with Silas, offered a brief, almost imperceptible nod, a grudging acknowledgement of Aris's unorthodox triumph. Silas Vance, however, made no effort to hide the overt admiration in his gaze, a quiet intensity that spoke volumes. The Gulfstream's engines whined to life, signaling her departure from this world that had so profoundly reshaped her. The jungle had not just tested her, it had reborn her. The disgraced botanist was finally home within herself. As the private jet climbed, Aris looked out the window, watching the emerald canopy shrink into a vast, textured carpet. The city lights of her former life, the diner, the estate gardens, felt like a distant dream. Here, suspended between worlds, she reflected on her journey. From a disgraced botanist, haunted by a past blunder, to a cultural diplomat who had bridged an impossible gap, the experience had not just healed old wounds, it had redefined her scientific purpose. Her encyclopedic knowledge of botanical poisons, once a source of shame, had become her greatest asset, allowing her to understand the delicate balance of life and death, of power and respect. She was no longer running from her past, she was building her future upon its hard-won lessons. The world's most reclusive billionaire had an offer that could erase her past. But Aris had a counter-proposal. A few days later, Aris found herself in Silas Vance's luxurious, minimalist office, high above a bustling cityscape. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view, a stark contrast to the dense jungle she had just left. Silas, seated behind a sleek, transparent desk, presented his offer. "Dr. Thorne," he began, his voice calm, direct. "Your work in the Amazon was beyond exceptional. We've established a new division, ethnobotany and cultural integration. I want you to lead it. A directorship, a salary that will solve any financial burden, unlimited funding for your research, and a clear path to reclaiming your academic standing. This is not a request, Aris. It's an opportunity." The words hung in the air. A lifeline, a gilded cage, an absolute vindication. Overwhelmed, grateful, Aris felt a strange hollowness. It was everything she thought she wanted, yet something felt missing. She wasn't just accepting a job, she was demanding a partnership, proving her worth beyond any salary. Aris took a deep breath, her gaze steady, meeting Silas's analytical eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. It's an incredible offer." She paused, leaning forward slightly, a newfound confidence radiating from her. "But I don't want it as a gift. I want you to invest in me, not as an employee you discovered, but as a partner you value." Silas raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise in his expression. "I propose a performance-based role. Let me lead a new division, focused on ethical botanical development. Give me a budget and a team. If I succeed in bringing 2 new, ethically sourced botanical innovations to market within 3 years, I get a stake in those ventures. And I'll fund my own academic rehabilitation with the salary you provide." She was no longer the disgraced botanist. She was a woman who knew her worth. The disgraced botanist had not just found a second chance. She had forged her own destiny. Silas Vance stared at her, his analytical gaze replaced by one of genuine astonishment, which slowly broadened into a rare, brilliant smile. "A disgraced botanist, who was a gardener a few weeks ago, is now negotiating equity with me on a multi-million-dollar venture," he said, shaking his head in disbelief, a soft laugh escaping him. "I knew my instincts were right about you, Dr. Thorne. I just had no idea how right." He extended his hand across the gleaming desk. "You have a deal. Welcome to Vance Global Tech." Aris shook his hand, a current of electricity passing between them. It wasn't just a handshake. It was a contract. It was the closing of one chapter of her life, and the explosive beginning of another. She was no longer just a botanist. She was a visionary. And she was finally, truly home. The disgraced botanist was now a leader, forging a new path where science and tradition bloomed together. Dr. Aris Thorne sat at the head of a gleaming, reclaimed wood table, not in a potting shed, but in the heart of Vance Global Tech's newly christened Ethnobotany and Cultural Integration Department. Sunlight streamed through living walls of verdant plants, a testament to her vision. Around her, a diverse team, ethnographers, data scientists, and botanists, leaned forward, their faces a mix of eager attention and newfound respect. On a large, transparent screen, a world map glowed, dotted with various project locations, each representing a delicate dance between ancient wisdom and modern innovation. Our work in the Amazon, with Chief Iali and Kai, set the precedent, Aris explained, her voice clear and confident, a stark contrast to the whispered observations of her past. We proved that ethical integration isn't just possible, it's essential. We aren't extracting resources, we're cultivating relationships. Our next initiative in the Himalayas requires the same nuanced approach to the local medicinal flora and the communities who have stewarded it for millennia. She gestured to a young botanist. Dr. Chen, your team's initial cultural sensitivity report is excellent. But remember, the real data isn't just in the soil, it's in the stories. From disgrace to global recognition. Her voice, once silenced, now inspired a new generation of scientists. Months later, under the dazzling lights of a prestigious scientific conference, Aris Thorne stood on a stage, a spotlight illuminating her, not as a disgraced academic, but as a visionary. Behind her, a vast projection of the sacred Amazonian plant glowed, its ethereal beauty captivating the audience. She spoke not of numbers and extraction, but of stewardship, reciprocity, and the profound wisdom held within indigenous knowledge systems. She wove tales of the jungle, of Kai's patient guidance, and of Chief Iali's ancient understanding of balance. As she concluded, the room erupted in a standing ovation. Scientists, philanthropists, and corporate leaders rose to their feet, their applause a thunderous validation. In the audience, Silas Vance watched, a rare, proud smile gracing his lips. Nearby, Dr. Lena Petrova, initially tight-lipped, found her stern expression softening, a flicker of awe, and perhaps a touch of grudging respect, crossing her features. Aris, a small, intricate metal ethno-botanical innovation, pinned to her jacket, felt a wave of vindication wash over her. Her voice, once silenced by scandal, now resonated with purpose, inspiring a new generation to look beyond the microscope, into the heart of culture and nature. The bridge she built wasn't just for a deal, it was a lasting bond, a testament to true understanding. In her office, which now boasted a thriving indoor garden, Aris leaned into a video call, a warm smile on her face. On the split screen, the vibrant green of the Amazonian jungle formed the backdrop for Kai and Chief Iali. Their faces, etched with the wisdom of the forest, glowed with a shared understanding. The sacred grove flourishes, Arisan, Kai said, his voice carrying the gentle hum of the jungle. The children learn the old ways, and the new ways of protection you taught us. Chief Iali nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners. The river flows clean. The outsiders respect the boundaries. Your words, they became roots. Aris's heart swelled. They discussed ongoing projects, sustainable farming initiatives, educational programs, and the careful, respectful documentation of other medicinal plants. It wasn't a business update. It was a conversation between trusted partners, between friends. The bridge she had built wasn't just for a deal. It was a lasting bond, a testament to true understanding, a living, growing testament to what could be achieved when science and tradition embraced. Her hands, once stained with failure, now nurtured a new legacy. What hidden wisdom did your journey unlock? Later, in her personal apartment, now a vibrant sanctuary filled with exotic plants, each a story, Aris carefully pruned a small, thriving specimen of the purple bloom, a gift from Kai. Soft, natural light bathed the room, highlighting the healthy sheen of the leaves. Her hands, once associated with failure, now worked with a quiet confidence, nurturing life. She thought of the Astor diner, the scent of burnt bacon grease, and the casual condescension. She thought of the asterisk Chlorathra venenum, the plant that had shattered her career, only to become the unexpected key to understanding the sacred plant. Her disgrace had not been an end, but a pivot, a catalyst. It had forced her to look beyond rigid scientific dogma, to embrace empathy and cultural nuance. True value, she realized, wasn't just in what you knew, but in how you connected, how you listened, how you dared to see the world differently. Her journey hadn't just been about saving a plant or a tribe. It had been about reclaiming herself, finding a deeper, richer purpose. Your big break might be just one conversation, one dangerous opportunity, or one moment of courage away. What will you do? Aris Thorne's story isn't just about a lucky break. It's a powerful reminder that the person you are right now, in whatever job you're working, is not the final chapter. Your hidden talents, your forgotten passions, the skills you think no one sees, they have immense value. It was a single, mysterious note and an offer to the Amazon that changed Aris's life. But it was her courage to step onto that jet, her intelligence to see the real problem, and her confidence to demand her true worth that secured her future. What hidden talent do you have that the world just hasn't seen yet? What would you have done if you found that black envelope? If this story inspired you or made you think, please give this video a thumbs up. It truly helps us bring more stories like this to you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an incredible journey. And share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that their big break might be just one customer, one conversation, or one moment of courage away. Thank you for listening.